April Fools! This week we are taking a look at some of the best jokes played by board game publishers and companies on this past April Fool's Day.
And our topic of the week, choosing the first player. What's fair and what's not. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. So this past week, of course, was April Fool's Day, and many companies, ourselves included, had some fun pranks for everybody on the internet, as has now become online tradition. We had a Mario Party 10 video, if you didn't see it.
Right, for our reoccurring video game series.
Yes, which was actually a real video, though, so you can actually go watch that. But other people had other things, notable ones, including Board Game Geek made a post stating that Asmodee was purchasing them. sort of been there, done that at this point.
Does that count if it's a prediction?
Right. Maybe not that funny anymore. Not that funny. One of my other favorite ones was the game Imperial Settlers, which we like a lot. They announced a new faction, which was the Lemmings, as in the old school video game Lemmings. And they even went through and made some fake cards for it and everything. It was kind of impressive. And I would buy that too.
Oh, yeah.
What else? There was Boy Band Flux.
Which is actually, that wasn't actually a joke. That was real. Just no one took it seriously. Actually, you know what? That's what happened with the Asmodee thing. They posted it now just in case, and when it actually happens, everyone's like, why didn't you say it? We're like, we did.
You just thought it was a joke. I don't know why you... There was the one that I actually completely thought was real, which was they said they were making Sorrow-branded soap.
Really?
Well, here's in my defense. They posted it not on April Fool's Day. They first posted it a day or two earlier. And they said it was part of some... I don't know. I just figured, like, all right, that's weird. They're making soap as, like, a special thing. I don't know. Why shouldn't they? Good for them. But no, not real. Not real either.
So I'm hoping for our Catan soap.
That would be really...
One smells of wheat. One smells of coal.
I don't see why this is
One smells of sheep manure.
Well, actually, what's it called? ThinkGeek had one Game of Thrones clue. And if you see in years past, ThinkGeek has done April Fool's jokes that later become real products. So any of these, if there's enough demand for them, could definitely become real.
But it'd be like, who dies? Oh, wait, everyone.
Everybody.
But Magic also had one, too, because they're known for their big anthology collector set. So they came up with the Drive to Work set, which is the recordings of Mark Rosewater, who's one of their big developers and also does like articles and podcasts for them.
Yeah, I would. That sounds like fun. They should publish that.
Do you really want to hear? Do you know your own thoughts when you drive to work? I want you to think. What do you think of on your way to driving to work?
This show is for kids. I couldn't possibly divulge that information, but it's fun to it's nice. Everybody gets together and has a laugh, gets a little pranking, little pranks, merry pranks, miss. All right, your turn.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, besides all the jokes, a real expansion was announced for Robinson Crusoe. It's due to come out 2016, and it is actually based on Lovecraft, which is really cool and interesting. Which the game itself would be you finding trying to find cultists, also trying to find some missing professors and stuff. They're actually going to add a new bar. There's going to be a sanity bar now that you have to keep track of, which is really cool. I actually think this is a reasonably good idea. They already had one with cultists, one of the scenarios, if I recall, sort of cultists, something.
They had
smoke,
cannibals, and like tribal.
So I don't think it's that far off in terms of an expansion idea. We got it. We haven't tried it yet. The King Kong one, I'm really excited about.
Which was kind of like a promo one.
Right, yeah, it was a promo one, but I mean, King Kong is cool. So this kind of thing, I think it's not that far off in terms of...
No, at first, you'd think, like, what is the connection from Deserted Island to Lovecraft? But in terms of the atmosphere and the theme of the game, it really is all about the survival and struggle and desperation.
And I think can easily be fit Cthulhu in.
Yeah, I mean, it really...
Well, I mean, we should say the mythos. of Lovecraft, not Cthulhu specifically.
Well, I think he did say Cthulhu mythos, but again,
yeah, but I mean,
it's
like,
early.
I don't know whether it's just gonna be like a giant elder god that starts stomping around or something. But I think it's a cool idea because it definitely can pull on because adding a sanity meter I think makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah, definitely
in this kind of game. It definitely could be some weird illusions. I mean, we've already poisoned ourselves by eating raw berries. I mean, would it not be that far off that you start hallucinating and attack maybe one of your comrades?
That's
or something?
great. Yeah, I love that. That should be really fun, and I think it's going to have another campaign in it, like the Voyage of the Beagle did.
Yeah, there is. I'm pretty sure. One of the reasons, actually, I really love this because he said one of the reasons it's taking an entire year is he has to read up on all the mythos, which I think is really cool. That means he's not just going to be like, okay, let's put Cthulhu and Cult. He's going to be like, okay, give me Lovecraft. I'm going to find out what actually fits with the...
Yeah. So, they're doing their homework.
Yes. Which is
super
really cool.
excited. And that was announced on April 2nd, by the way, a day after the Lemmings thing. So I was scared it was April Fool's, but he says it is not. He says it's real.
Cool thing to check out if you've already played Robinson Crusoe. If you haven't, pick it up. It's very good. It's definitely, I think, one of our favorite games we played, at least new games we played recently.
We love it. There's other games people love, though.
Right.
I'm going to talk about one right now. Is just announced that the latest game is going to be added to the Dice Tower Essentials line of games, and that is Royals from Arcane Wonders. And this is a game all about vying for power in Europe. You're playing these nobles and you're trying to appeal and get influence from these higher up royal types. And it's kind of a territory control influence type of game.
So are you saying that we could be royals?
We could be. It's like that song. But I'm sure that joke will happen every 5 minutes when this game comes out.
Oh, I'm sure everyone already did it now that we're doing like...
Yeah, but the game doesn't have a date yet. It's coming out later this year. But of course, this is after Sheriff of Nottingham was.
That's the one I do know. Is that
as far as I know, that is the only. There might be one other, but I'm pretty sure this is a new thing.
Yeah.
At least that has come out so far.
And I know Sheriff, once again, another game we highly recommend and thought was really good. So I'm very excited to.
And got a lot of hype and everything. So I'm sure this
well deserved
will
too.
Do the same. Yeah. So yeah, regardless, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing that they do to hype up the games that are worthy of our attention.
So eventually we'll do our own Roll for Crit ones, maybe in some dreamy future.
So Roll for Crit.
Yeah, we'll come up with something later. Don't even try now, please.
Okay, so, I don't want to give it all away here.
But for now, I think we should focus on our Kickstarter Pickstarters. This week, my Kickstarter Pickstarter is Mangaka. This comes from Jason Thompson, who actually has worked with Shonen Jump and other big manga companies as an editor. The game itself I really like it because it's sort of like Pictionary, but actually with a theme that works. So the whole idea is that you are all manga artists, and you're going to be dealt 3 random cards. So you could be dealt bling, spaceship, and cats. And you have to draw like a 2-page comic, I think 1 or 2.
Oh, those are just random examples you came up with.
Like 3 you get there's a deck of random words.
I thought that was like the categories for every round. I was
but each person gets their own. It's not like the entire group does one.
Okay.
And then you draw out your panel and try to do a comic in a time limit. And then as the game goes on, you're going to have to do more and more panels. So in the end, you're going to have a whole little comic. But there's going to be trends going on as well. So like maybe people are like, we want more sports related, more shoujo, or like, so you have to like twist your comic around to fit whatever the current needs are.
So is it supposed to actually be like a coherent storyline throughout all your drawings?
It made it sound like it. I'm not 100% sure whether
it's up to you.
But to me, it looked, maybe there's different modes as well. It looked a lot of fun. It looked like an interesting twist on the random just Pictionary, like draw this. Like, because now you have to actually sort of fit a storyline, also fit like demands. It made me sort of think actually of God, I'm blanking the name of it. Level 99 Studios is doing that one. It's not actually a trading card game.
It's Millennium Blades.
Yeah, where you're actually playing the sort of
CCG meta in the game.
And I thought that was a really cool and also relatively simple to understand, because even though it's based on Japanese comics, manga, you don't really need to have a real understanding of it. Like
you can draw whatever you want.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, like I said, bling cat. Like that was the one I'm pulling from their actual video. I think you can understand those words and draw something.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought it's a great Kickstarter. Currently, they have an early bird special for $45. as of last checking, but it goes for $50 regularly. A really cool game, especially if you're into that drawing. Definitely one to pick up. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. My game that I'm going to talk about is Not Dice. It is Dice, but the name of it is Not Dice with a K.
You mean like the tying a rope knot?
Yes, that's correct. Just don't want anyone to be confused. Basically, so this is actually kind of a bunch of games in one. It comes with a bunch of large green dice, and rather than just dots or numbers on the sides, they have these interesting patterns and engravings that sort of resemble knots or things like that. And you can actually, in a certain arrangement, they'll kind of connect together, like in a form of pattern. And there are multiple games that you can play, and it comes with rules for them. So, for example, there might be one where you're trying to create a pattern faster than your opponent, like by rolling the dice and taking them from the middle. There's some that are cooperative. There's some where you are working together trying to make the dice go in a pattern. And there's also some puzzles that come with it that aren't even games that you like are like sort of like more like mind benders trying to like solve the kind of things.
So you mean like Professor Lane? This reminds me of a puzzle,
right? Exactly. But yeah, I think it's interesting because it's just dice. There's no other things in there, and the fact that I'm sure they're very they're versatile kind of. So I'm sure there's going to be more games you could invent, almost like a set of playing cards or something like that. There's more into the box than just what comes with it.
Who makes it?
It is made by Black Oak Games, of course, and you can get it for $29 right now, and which is a pretty good deal for that gives you 18 dice. I think if you spend
that's pretty nice.
If you spend less, you could get a set of just 9 dice.
And judging from what I saw, because we try not to actually tell each other too much, but I saw the image and it looked more like Gaelic. Kind of.
Right, that's what it's like inspired by. Yeah, it's like that sort
which
of
is
like,
very cool.
Yeah, like Celtic
and Gaelic.
designs.
Yeah, my
and
mistake.
Stuff. Yeah, I don't whatever one it is. Yeah, yeah. So it's a neat, interesting.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool, and I actually wouldn't be. I could actually see the potential for growth with it, depending on how much whether this Kickstarter reaches it or not.
Yeah, and he said there's room in the box. Like if you bought multiple sets, you could combine them and add a lot more. So
that's always a good thing, as we've seen with many games. If you can combine just to fit more players, that makes things a lot easier.
So we had 2 very, I think, like unique ones today.
Yeah. Pretty good. Both high recommendations from us.
Yeah, so check those out in the links below. We're going to finish our show off today with our topic of the week.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Finally. Sorry, we were just trying to decide who could go first to introduce our topic of the week, because that's our topic of the week. It is first player choice, deciding who should go first in a board game, and that was clearly a difficult way to do it. And anticipate that. It's because we're pros at rock, paper, scissors. Of course, if you've played a bunch of games, you've probably seen many times when you open the instruction booklet, they'll have some interesting way. The most common ones traditionally are either oldest or youngest player, or it might just be first person, like pick randomly is a big one. But then sometimes they get a little more creative and they have things like whoever last watched a kung fu movie or whoever did whatever.
I know at least in terms of the oldest one I can think of with chess, white always goes first.
Right, of course.
And it is a fact in chess, even though it's mirrored, I think there actually is a percentage you have a higher chance of winning starting just from white. So that's a big issue when it comes to starting with the first player. Yeah,
and that's definitely one of the big reasons. I think there's so many weird ways now is that people are very conscious of that and now there of course are ways they offset that. Like I think we've talked about in things like is it Magic has a thing? I know Hearthstone has a weird way.
Well, actually, we should.
That's a whole other
Magic's thing is they don't get to draw off a card first. However, first still goes. Hearthstone, however, sort of went too far. Now everyone wants to go second.
Right.
Because that coin card you get from going second, I know the little I played, and I was not pro at it, I was so happy to get that because I just chain off that really well.
It's nice to have the options. So yeah, you have to be careful when you're choosing who goes first and how you balance the rest of the game. Definitely in 2-player games, I think it's a much bigger deal usually. Although it can be a big deal in if you have 5 players and you're going last, that can hurt you sometimes.
No, that's why a lot of times what they'll do is let's take Catan for example. in which, let's say you went first, you, then me, then Jeff over here. Then Jeff gets to put his second house first, then me, then you.
Right.
But we're digressing. We're arguing about what's the first. So let's
Well,
actually
it's
talk
related.
It is related. But in terms of actually starting who goes first, what is one of you think? What are ways that you've liked to see them start first, and what are ways you've disliked?
I mean, I guess I don't really like when they just say choose randomly, because then I feel like I'd like it to think that they put some thought into there actually being a good way to go about it. You know, I'm not going to fault the game. Like, it's not going to like it less for that.
That's it. I can't play this anymore.
Right. But I do like when sometimes I'll be the first to admit I get tired of the really cutesy ones when it's just like, well, you're the last person to have walked on grass with bare feet and looked at the sky.
You're thinking of Terra Mystica?
Yeah. Well, Terra Mystica is the last person who planted in a garden or something.
Yeah, something like that. A flower in the garden.
Yeah. Like, I think it's because everybody does it now, so in a struggle to be unique. I mean, at the end of the day, you can ignore it if you want. Do it for fun. That's fine.
That actually reminded me of a Kickstarter. We did not. I don't remember if we mentioned it or not, but it actually was like dice for you to actually choose how people go first.
Yeah, Start Player Express from Bezier Games. I think they had like a bigger version earlier. That's why the latest one is Express. Yeah, I think we may have talked about it. Yeah, and that's a whole other thing. Is there's even a game in itself to decide who goes first in a game. So it's become a thing. I don't know. Are there any method you prefer?
Well, I'm very curious to see actually legacy games, because I haven't played Risk Legacy, and we know Pandemic Legacy is coming out, and whether those games say like whoever scored this amount goes first last time or something.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the games do have whoever won the last game or whoever lost the last game.
I sort of like. I guess this isn't as much going first, but it's when let's say you have a round of 3 people, you each take your order. But the next round actually changes the order depending on what happened. Yeah,
I think that's definitely important. Well, a lot of times it just rotates, and then sometimes there's ones where, like you said, like
depending on what happened in the last.
If you pass first, you get to go first.
Like I really like those. Yeah. Because I think it makes the first person a goal. Yeah. Because like oh God, I'm blanking on the game. There's one game in my head. Like, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it.
What, that doesn't do that? Or
no, that does do that we really like a lot.
Well, I know there's one, there's 1 or 2 games I remember. I think maybe Uncharted. What was you think of it?
Mage Knight.
Mage Knight, what does they do?
The way it works is at the beginning of each round, night or day, there's a stack of cards. And it has values 1 through 6. Now, the first card is you get to go first. But the other cards have special abilities, so it actually you can sort of gamble like, okay, maybe I can go for the 5 turn, because still, if there's only 4 people, I might still like.
Or like Cutthroat Caverns, where it's similar, but there's no abilities. But it's at the start of each turn, you hand out initiative cards to decide who goes first. Yeah, that's kind of. And then of course there's this is sort of a different field, but role-playing games where you actually roll for initiative. That's another one we didn't even mention. Who rolls the highest number. That's very common.
Well, I think that usually is the random.
Same thing as random, yeah.
That usually is what happens.
But no, I know there's been 1 or 2 games. I think Uncharted, based off the video game, was one, but we may have been playing it wrong. I don't remember.
As usual.
There were rounds, but the starting player didn't change. And it really bugged me that the starting player didn't change, because it just seems like a natural thing in every game. Yeah,
because that one had a passing thing too. I forget what it was.
Yeah,
like depending on how you pass, you got a reward or something.
I don't know.
that was a fun game. That is a fun game we haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
Well, we just like the Uncharted series. Yeah, but it's really interesting, because some games you're just. I know, like for example, in Magic. And when it comes to tournament play, there are some decks that either win or lose depending if they go first or second. Yeah, like you literally will scoop the game if you got first or second. It's just amazing how like some things can be so dependent.
Yeah, especially in game, any kind of head-to-head or CCG like that. I think it becomes a much bigger issue. Right, and especially the less randomness that you have, the less chances for things to even out later. Yeah, it can be tough. So yeah, when designing games, you definitely have to take that kind of thing into account.
Yeah. Another thing is definitely this one is becomes an issue. I can't think of a game in particular, but if there's territory control, and let's say there's this one territory that's obviously better than the rest, I cannot think. Maybe like Risk with Australia, but that's not nearly as bad.
Or of course any worker placement game. That's always whatever people want.
That makes me think of Harbor. We had the taxation office, so every other turn we'd always be placing it. No, like if there's certain things,
If there's a really strong card, everyone's going for it. And if you're last, well, usually those kinds of games bounce it out.
No, like Harbor, I don't think is as bad because it's random. So let's say if you do find something, you can just say that can't be a starting.
And in Harbor, you can't choose the same place twice in a row, for example. By the way, just to clarify, we're talking about the game Harbor from Tasty Minstrel, not like Machikoro Harbor or something. Right. So people know what we're talking about.
Not a mistake.
No, not a mistake. Just clarification.
But I do think I can't think of a game in particular. Like I said, with the territory, like Risk is the closest thing I can think of, and even then, I think Australia is usually a safe. It's not it's like a good bet. It's just not. You can get around. It's not.
I mean, how do you feel about like say? Just in general, if you're deciding for your group, whoever wins last game always goes first in the next game, or something like that. I don't mind that, except for games like you said, like Magic, where obviously it's a bigger deal. But if you're playing
no, that's what we usually do in Magic.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Well, because
how else do you decide?
I usually play. Well, the first one is we do random. Like we'll take 3 cards, whoever draws the one creature card or something. But like after that, we're usually playing casual multiplayer, not one-on-one. I'm not talking a pre-release tournament.
Sure.
Actually, I'll get to pre-release tournament, but usually then it's just okay. You just start because it's just like get the game going. Mm-hmm. Usually when you get to the multiplayer Magic, it usually just in Commander or EDH, it sort of just becomes a giant mess of everyone throwing big spells at each other. But in tournament play, what they do is like if we were playing and let's say you beat me, next round. I get to choose whether I go first or second.
Right. That's a good way to do it too. You get to choose. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It becomes a very interesting dynamic in that sense because what's also interesting is depending how games do it. I know in Magic, you're not supposed to be able to look at your hand until you choose. So you can't be like, oh, this would be great for a second.
Right.
But maybe some other games could be like that. So you may be able to look at your resources and be like, there's no way I want to go first.
Yeah. There's definitely, I guess, the nice thing about it, bottom line, is that it's something that no matter what the rules say, you can always make your own house rule very easily.
Yes. The one other thing to look out for, this one's very hard. I can think of one game in particular this becomes an issue. Or not a big issue, but sort of, I know it's something that bothered you a little bit, is the number of players. Like going first may give you an advantage. The game in particular I'm thinking of is seasons.
Yeah, that's a weird one because
there's 3
years. There's 3 rounds in the game essentially.
So depending on
if you have 4 players,
who goes first,
one person never gets to go first.
Right. So that could that's a we'll have to play seasons on a playback and talk about that more in depth. But like that kind of thing, I think is also where first player comes in. Not like in particular you actually got the first turn, but you pretty much guaranteed a certain slot. Right. Like maybe not even you go first. You may want to be in that situation, maybe third, or something like that. I don't know.
Right, because maybe you want to have the control of the last round or something. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of weird things to think about depending on the games. But maybe you out there have a suggestion. Is there a certain way you really like to choose who goes first, or do you always have a way with your group? Or if you have a favorite one from a game that's a weird, dumb one.
Hey, those are usually hilarious sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of times they're pretty funny.
Especially when it's like, last person to been in the forest, and we're all like in a house that's surrounded by forest, we're like,
Someone who woke up earliest this morning,
Oh, God. That's the worst, because there's always one person like, 2 days ago. How are you awake?
Or I think the game Paperback is like who last read a novel, and we're all just like, none of us?
Well, it's because it's like, novel? Like, I read some short stories.
Yeah, I looked at a billboard.
Actually, I thought you read something recently.
We don't know. We don't know. So, but anyway, let us know what your thoughts are. You can either leave a comment on this video, or you can write to us. Our address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, there's other ways to reach out to us, such as subscribing to this video. Right down there. And of course, our Twitter, Facebook, all of it connected to Roll for Crit. And of course, our personal ones.
Right, and Roll for Crit being rollforcrit.com.
Yes, sir.
Which is our website where we sell a lot of games that we talked about today.
Oh, boy.
Like Robinson Crusoe and others. And you can find all the news up to date from things like our Kickstarters and new podcasts and videos and all kinds of fun stuff.
More April Fool's jokes, new releases. Pretty much, if there's something with board game news, we work hard to get on it.
And sign up for our newsletter, which will finally officially be launching when you're watching this. We finally hammered it home, and we're going to get it out there.
So it'll actually go to your inbox.
Right. So look out for that. But otherwise...
Also watch out for some dead pigeons.
Oh, those things. They get everywhere. Got anything left to say?
No, I'm pretty good. I think for now, all that's left to say is that I'm Will Keeler.
And I'm Jonathan Estes, and you've been watching the Roll for Crit podcast.